As the conflict continues to evolve, the line between controlled warfare and uncontrollable escalation is becoming increasingly thin. And the world is entering a phase where even small developments can have massive consequences. The leadership of the United States, Iran, and Israel is now operating under extreme pressure, where every decision carries both military and political risks. Internally, each government must maintain strength and stability, while externally they must project power and avoid appearing vulnerable. This dual pressure often leads to more aggressive actions, as backing down can be seen as weakness, not just by enemies, but by their own citizens as well. At the same time, the role of technology in this conflict is becoming more prominent than ever before. Advanced missile defense systems, surveillance satellites, artificial intelligence and targeting, and drone warfare are shaping how battles are fought and how quickly situations can change. Wars that once took months to escalate can now intensify within hours, leaving very little time for diplomatic intervention. This rapid pace increases the risk of mistakes, misidentifying a target, misinterpreting an action, or responding too quickly, which could trigger a chain reaction far beyond initial intentions. Economic warfare is also tightening its grip on all sides. Sanctions, trade restrictions, and financial pressure are being used as tools to weaken opponents without direct combat. But these measures also have global consequences. Markets remain unstable, investors are cautious, and industries dependent on Middle Eastern resources are facing uncertainty. For ordinary people around the world, this translates into rising costs, limited resources, and an unpredictable future, showing how deeply interconnected modern conflicts have become. Another critical dimension is the psychological impact of prolonged tension. Populations within the affected countries are adapting to a constant state of alert, where fear and resilience coexist. Governments are working to maintain morale through strong messaging, while also managing internal dissent and economic strain. Over time, this psychological pressure can influence decision-making at both the public and leadership levels, sometimes pushing nations toward escalation rather than restraint. Internationally, efforts to mediate the conflict continue, but they face significant challenges. Trust between the involved parties remains extremely low, and previous grievances make it difficult to find common ground. Neutral countries and global organizations are attempting to create dialogue, but progress is slow and fragile. Any meaningful breakthrough would require concessions that could be politically costly for those in power, making compromise a difficult path to choose. Looking forward, the future of this conflict may unfold in several ways. It could stabilize into a tense but controlled standoff, where direct conflict decreases but underlying tensions remain unresolved. Alternatively, it could expand further, drawing in additional nations and transforming into a larger regional war. There is also the possibility of a sudden and unexpected shift, whether through diplomatic agreement, internal political change, or external intervention that could alter the course of events entirely. What makes this moment in history so significant is not just the scale of the conflict, but the uncertainties surrounding it. The actions taken today by United States, Iran, and Israel are shaping a future that no one can fully predict. It is a reminder that in a world as interconnected as ours, no conflict exists in isolation, and the consequences of war extend far beyond the battlefield, influencing economies, societies, and global stability for years to come. The rising conflict between the United States, Iran, and Israel is not just another regional tension. It has become one of the most dangerous and complex geopolitical crises in the modern world. What began as long-standing hostility and strategic rivalry has now escalated into direct confrontation. With military strikes, political assassinations, and global economic consequences shaping the narrative. The United States and Israel, both deeply concerned about Iran's military expansion and nuclear ambitions, have carried out targeted operations against key Iranian installations, including missile systems and strategic facilities, signaling a shift from indirect pressure to open aggression. In response, Iran has launched retaliatory missile attacks toward Israel, triggering widespread panic, activating advanced defense systems, and causing destruction in several areas. The situation intensified further with the reported targeting of high-level Iranian leadership, which not only destabilized internal power structures, but also pushed Iran toward more aggressive retaliation. As the conflict deepened, strategic locations such as major oil routes became part of the battlefield, especially the Strait of Hormuz, a critical passage for global energy supply, causing oil prices to surge and international markets to react with uncertainty and fear. The war quickly moved beyond a regional issue and began affecting the global stage, with rising tensions threatening to pull other nations into the conflict. Despite behind-the-scenes diplomatic efforts to reduce escalation, strong positions on all sides have made negotiations extremely difficult. As each party continues to pursue its own strategic goals without showing signs of compromise, the human cost continues to rise, with increasing casualties, damaged infrastructure, and millions living under constant fear. At its core, this conflict is not just about territory or military strength. It is about influence, control, and survival in a rapidly changing global order. The future of this situation remains uncertain, but one thing is clear. The outcome of this conflict could reshape international relations, redefine power in the Middle East, and leave a lasting impact on the entire world. As the situation continues to unfold, the intensity of the conflict between United States, Iran, and Israel is pushing the region closer to a breaking point, where control becomes harder with each passing day. Military operations are no longer limited to strategic strikes. They are evolving into sustained campaigns designed to weaken each side's long-term capabilities. Air defenses are constantly being tested. Cyber warfare is quietly expanding behind the scenes, and intelligence operations are playing a critical role in shaping every move. Each nation is not only fighting on the battlefield, but also trying to control the narrative, influence global opinion, and secure support from allies. The risk of miscalculation is now higher than ever, where a single wrong move could trigger a much larger escalation involving multiple countries across the Middle East and beyond. At the same time, regional powers are watching closely, calculating their own positions. Some nations are quietly supporting one side, while others are attempting to remain neutral to protect their own stability. However, neutrality is becoming increasingly difficult. As economic pressure rises and security threats expand, the global economy is already feeling the impact, especially through rising energy prices and disrupted trade routes, which are affecting countries far removed from the conflict zone. This war is no longer confined to borders. It is influencing decisions in capitals around the world, forcing governments to prepare for outcomes that were once considered unlikely. Inside the affected regions, daily life has been transformed by uncertainty and fear. Civilians are facing power outages, shortages of essential supplies, and the constant threat of further attacks. Infrastructure damage is slowing down recovery efforts, and humanitarian concerns are growing as more people are displaced or affected by the violence. Despite this, national sentiment in each country remains strong, with governments using messaging to maintain morale and justify continued operations. This creates a cycle where public pressure and political goals reinforce each other, making de-escalation even more difficult. Diplomatic channels are still open, but they are fragile and strained. Attempts at negotiation are often overshadowed by new developments on the ground, and trust between the parties remains extremely low. International organizations and global powers are trying to mediate, but their influence is limited when core strategic interests are at stake. Each side believes it cannot afford to appear weak, which reduces the chances of immediate peace and increases the likelihood of prolonged conflict. Looking ahead, the future of this war remains uncertain, but several possibilities are becoming clear. The conflict could settle into a prolonged standoff with periodic escalations, or it could suddenly expand into a wider regional war involving additional countries and alliances. There is also the possibility of a sudden diplomatic breakthrough, though it would require significant compromise from all sides, something that currently seems unlikely. What makes this situation particularly dangerous is not just the scale of military power involved, but the deeper political and ideological divisions that continue to fuel it. In the end, this is more than just a war between nations. It is a defining moment for global stability. The decisions made now by United States, Iran, and Israel will shape not only the outcome of this conflict, but also the future balance of power in the world. And as events continue to unfold, the world watches closely, knowing that the consequences of this confrontation may be felt for years, if not decades, to come.